Who you gonna call? If you were alive in the 80s, that line was everywhere. Ghostbusters wasn't just a movie, it was a full-blown pop culture explosion. But behind all the laughs, slime, and the giant Marshmallow Man, the making of Ghostbusters was pure chaos. We're talking drug-fueled writing sessions, lawsuits, exploding slime, and ghosts that were almost alien time travelers. So grab your proton pack, because we're about to bust open some of the weirdest, wildest, behind-the-scenes stories from the making of Ghostbusters. Before the Ecto-1 ever hit the streets of New York, Ghostbusters started out as a completely different movie. Dan Aykroyd, who's actually obsessed with the paranormal in real life, originally wrote the script as a sci-fi epic set in the future. In his version, ghost busting was basically an everyday blue-collar job, like pest control, but with proton packs. The team traveled through dimensions, fighting ghosts on other planets. It was called Ghost Smashers, and it would have cost over $300 million in 1983 money. So naturally, the studio went, yeah, maybe let's not do that. That's when director Ivan Reitman and writer Harold Ramis stepped in and said, what if we set it in modern-day New York instead? They kept the ghosts, ditched the interdimensional wormholes, and thank the spirits they did. Otherwise, we might have gotten Ghostbusters: A Space Odyssey. The original Ghostbusters lineup, totally different from the one we know. Dan Aykroyd actually wrote it for his Saturday Night Live buddies, John Belushi and Eddie Murphy. Belushi was set to play Peter Venkman, and Murphy was supposed to be Winston Zeddemore. But tragedy struck when Belushi passed away during pre-production, and Murphy turned down the part to do Beverly Hills Cops. In a bittersweet twist, Aykroyd modeled Slimer, the big green ghost, after Belushi, calling him the Ghost of John. So yeah, that sloppy, food-guzzling ghost, that's actually a tribute. Then came Bill Murray. He agreed to do the movie, but never actually signed a contract. He just showed up on day one in New York and started filming. Classic Bill Murray move. Filming Ghostbusters in New York was absolute chaos. They didn't have permits for half their scenes, so they'd just start rolling and hope the cops didn't show up. That shot where the Ghostbusters run out of the hotel in full gear? Yeah, those were real bystanders, watching in total confusion. People genuinely thought that these guys were city-hired paranormal exterminators, and the Ecto-1, a total nightmare. It was a beat-up old Cadillac ambulance held together with duct tape, constantly stalling and blocking traffic. At one point, a cop pulled them over, saw the proton packs, and asked if they were real weapons. The cast just said, "Sir, we're Ghostbusters," and drove off. Let's talk about that slime. The ectoplasm was made from methylcellulose, egg whites, and green food dye. It smelled like if rotten eggs and paint had a baby. By the end of the day, the actors would go home literally crusted in goo. And then, the Stay-Puft Marshmallow Man finale. That massive marshmallow explosion at the end? Yeah, not foam, shaving cream. They used over 50 gallons of it. Poor William Atherton, the guy who played Walter Peck, got buried under 75 pounds of this stuff. He said he couldn't breathe for a few seconds after it hit him. Method acting, Ghostbusters style. Here's something wild. Columbia Pictures didn't actually own the name Ghostbusters when they started filming. There was already a 1970s kids show called The Ghostbusters. So while cameras were rolling, the studio's lawyers were in full panic mode trying to secure the rights. They didn't even get official permission until after filming began. For weeks, they had to shoot 2 versions of every scene. One where they said Ghostbusters, and another where they said Ghost Breakers. Can you imagine? Who you gonna call? Ghost Breakers! Yeah, that doesn't quite have the same ring. And of course, what's Ghostbusters without that iconic theme song? Ray Parker Jr. was given just a few days to come up with it. One night, he saw a late-night commercial for a plumbing company that said, "Who you gonna call?" Boom! Instant inspiration. He wrote the whole song in about 2 days. It became a massive hit until Huey Lewis sued him, saying it ripped off "I Want a New Drug." They settled out of court But by then, it didn't matter. The song was already legendary. When Ghostbusters hit theaters in 1984, no one was sure if it would even work. It blended comedy, horror, sci-fi, and satire, which just wasn't done at the time. But audiences loved it. It made nearly $300 million worldwide, became one of the biggest hits of the decade, turned Bill Murray into a superstar, and launched an entire Ghostbusters empire. Cartoons, toys, Halloween costumes, you name it. And even with the sequels and reboots since, nothing has ever quite captured that same lightning in a bottle magic as the original. From marshmallow explosions to on-set chaos and unscripted brilliance, Ghostbusters wasn't just made, it was summoned. And after all these years, one thing's still true: who you gonna call?